Good morning, everyone. And the dignitaries sharing dais with me, in particular Dalwai ji, Singhal Saab, Asthana. Distinguished audience, I think we are running a little behind schedule. I was talking to Asthana ji, so I will not repeat what has been conveyed already, though some of the points would certainly overlap. NABARD, we have been implementing some of the programs and they are developmental as well as, I would say, focused on climate remedies. Climate change related issues are addressed. And the first and foremost thing which I would love to share with you is that we are implementing in a sizable portion watershed development programs, watershed projects. We are also having the tribal development program, which again has a significant portion for water conservation and for foliage increase. We have also seen northeast, the forest cover is much higher. We all of us know northeast India. And in all these three, there has been no farmer suicide in last couple of years. I haven't come across a farmer suicide in any of the watershed areas being implemented by us or the project areas where TDF tribal development project is being run. So this leads me to first thought that the distress of farmers, if it is to be focused on, it cannot be focused removal of distress, cannot be focused in the absence of not talking about forest, foliage, water conservation and water related issues. That's point number one. So, the adversities of climate which also contribute to the distress of farmers can certainly be mitigated. That's the point number one I am trying to say, that with water efficient mechanisms, water efficient solutions, and with foliage increase or the forest cover increase or the horticulture which Dalwai sir was saying, tree cropping, if it is taken up on a wider area, would certainly contribute to lower distress and also overcoming some of the adversities of the climate change. Second point is, we have all the time been hearing that we have food and fiber requirements coming from agriculture to meet the manpower's basic needs. Food security in our country is by and large to some extent overcome. There may be stray instances of the absence of the food security in some areas, but that's not on account of production, that's on account of affordability or outreach in certain times and certain periods. So, food security and fiber requirements, if they have to be met, then basically 4 or 5 things we have to do. On a sustained manner, they have to be met. That's the point, because our requirements would continue to be there. So, anything in agriculture we do, we should be conscious of the sustainability aspects. Are we preserving our future in whatever I am doing today? So, that's if we follow that in our technologies, in our processes, in our practices, this will certainly contribute to mitigations in the climate sphere as well. We have talked about productivity. That's another focus area to meet all these requirements, because resources, endowments are getting narrower, population increasing. I think unless we become more productive from the same land, water, labor, those kinds of factors of production, if we don't optimize them, it will be difficult for us to continuously look forward to meeting our requirements. And for that reason, I think we have focused significantly on land-based productivity in past. Although somebody can come up and say that we are less in certain areas in productivity vis-a-vis this country, that country, but production and productivity has certainly been focused in certain areas may be deficit. But what we need to focus is the water productivity. I think if we are to tackle the climate change related issues in future, we should more and more talk about productivity of various crops vis-a-vis water consumption. If we have that ingrained in our policy, I think many of the issues which were touched upon by Mr. Dalwai before me and also Singhal Saab before me, that the distortions like crops which are not suitable for certain climates are being grown there. I think if in policies we can somehow bring in an element of water productivity in resource allocation as well as in terms of incentivizations of various mechanisms, then this certainly can lead to a lot of changes. We have to work on resilience in agriculture also in a segment. Resilience to me is basically adapting to newer requirements. Like if you have a longer crop, the chances of the extreme events of rain, drought, etc. are larger. So can we reduce smaller crops in those areas? I am not saying follow crops like earlier the green revolution time when the guzzling of resources happened and we produced short duration crops. We can do through our research particularly in eastern and northeastern area, focus on short duration crops if it is possible, because most of these areas are having long duration crops, and there are states after states, 2 or 3, I can immediately Bihar, eastern UP, you have floods, and immediately followed by floods you have a drought after 3 or 4 months. So if you can harvest within a defined period of time, so we need more research to reduce this. So I think that's one. Secondly, we are working in the possibility of a climate increase, although it's not well substantiated, but we are seeing melting etc. of ice in certain well-endowed regions, and also the winter days are coming down for quite a number of months. It used to be 4 months, now it is just a couple of days, let me say, or maybe not more than 30 days in North India here. So climate change is certainly happening. So we need to work on livelihood practices to the farmer conducive to the new environment. Can we have fisheries which is inland fisheries which supports, rather than 3 carps, can it support 4 carps? We are doing a project of this kind in this limited fashion. Similarly, can you also focus more on mixed farming to reduce extensive pressure on extensive pressure on the cropping or the agriculture practices which are totally land-based cropping oriented farming systems. I think we can work on some of these things in terms of resilience. Then we have to certainly focus in agriculture in terms of greenhouse emissions. Methane is excessively produced. Can we harness this methane for our use of the farmer in an enhanced manner? We need technological breakthrough. We have talked about biogas production for a long time. We need more process changes. I think this talks about technology and innovations. I think I was reading today's morning, Mr. Ratan Tata has said that Indian innovations have not been disruptive enough. That is what is there in Economic Times. But I think many of us have seen process innovations to be equally useful to us. I think to innovations need not be just technology oriented. We have come across certain models during our implementation programs. If we are able to ensure effective measurements of the losses happening and also reorienting processes and document them and share with others, this leads to certainly huge sustainability endeavors, as also reduces the expenses of the farmer, and we are focusing, our Prime Minister has focused on doubling of farmers' income. I think this can in a huge way ensure that the costs at the farmers' level are reduced. I mean, there are 2 mechanisms: either we enhance the returns to him or we reduce his costs. So that is one thing. In addition to some of the challenges already focused on, I would certainly say, I'll also repeat that water is going to be a huge challenge. Soil fertility is also going to be a challenge in the climate change related era. And erosion is likely to be higher, degradation is likely to be higher because of extreme rain events or extreme drought events. We need to work not only on the farmer's field but community action as well. That's a major challenge in some of the people. I mean, individually farmer is tempted to enhance one's own income. Can we work at the community level to ensure that all of us gain together? Can we plan our crops in such a fashion that overall area, what I'm hinting is, we have implemented programs till now of agriculture from top to bottom. We have not, to a great extent, except few states, we have not gone for the bottom-up approach for agriculture planning, particularly the crop planning. And that is very much required in the change scenario. Unless we encourage this, there was a reference to earlier by Mr. Singhal that we need to have a look at, because state agriculture is a state subject today. And most of the policy changes are being planned at the national level. But I would say that while one can say that there could be policy thrusts, but basic policy change has to come, because our agriculture is so different. It cannot have appeal to the farmer unless, whatever is grown in Leh, apricot, will not be there. So the policies around apricot have to be entirely different than the policies for some other crops like cumin or some other areas. So we need, this is rightly placed as a state subject to me. And I think we need, within that state subject thing, we need to certainly work on the bottom-up approach for overcoming some of these problems. I would also say solar needs to be focused on as a mitigation measure. Mitigation measure would partly come from efficient use of methane and also ensuring those practices which lower the emissions from agriculture. In addition to that, we have to work on significantly for solar systems. We have to make it more resilient. I was in a field, why some of the areas, the farmers are not using solar pumps despite being touted having, there is a lot of subsidy on those solar pumps today, but they were not taking it forward. So they said, "Ki sir, I have got bores in 5 areas, so I need to be mobile. A diesel pump set can easily be moved, not the solar one." So can we have those kinds of innovations? Can we have innovations of storage at the farmer's field which are solar driven? I think we need to have a lot of innovations and application of those innovations through ventures, be it smaller or bigger ones, which need to be taken forward. There are 6-7 areas I don't have to repeat. For climate smart agriculture, and each of them offers some opportunities. One is weather smartness. We need to share weather related information with the farmers and also advise them accordingly. We need to be water smart. I don't have to repeat that. We have to be energy wise smart also. And the water and energy, there is a close linkage. We need to really ensure whether farmer wants free power. Because of remuneration to a farmer is not as much. There are CSSO figures available which say that with the kind of land holding one has, and with 1 acre or 1 hectare of land, how much of the income available to a farmer, would he be able to sustain a family of 4 or 5 is a challenge. So issue is of the energy being made free available, but it has huge implications on long-term sustainability of these policies. We need to be carbon smart, we need to be nitrogen smart, and also knowledge smart. As of now, I found at least in central India, eastern India and northeast India, agriculture extension related practices are by and large not reachable to many farmers. despite having a system for delivery of agriculture extension services. So can we have more regional language related ICT interventions for delivery of the extension practices to the farmers? Let me towards the end say that climate is a national consideration. Otherwise I have said it's an international consideration. I don't disagree with that at all. But in terms of certain actions to be taken internally by us to deal with climate smartness, I think it cannot be, because size of some of the states is so small. It's just difficult to come out even with projects which would be limited to only just one state. Think about policies. Policies need to be much bigger. I think this forum is there. The outcome of this forum would certainly be useful for deliberating on some of the policies which can be used to mitigate and for adaptive purposes within agriculture in the times to come, so that we meet our food and fiber requirements in an efficient manner, and also in the process farmer is better off than what he was earlier. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.